All right, everyone, what's happening? It's Dave Mormon, home service business coach. I got my buddy joining us today, Mr. John Majak in the house. How we doing today, John?
Doing great, man. So glad to be here.
Yeah, man, it's been a long time coming. I know we got to give each other a hug at the huge convention, but didn't really get to hang out a whole lot. So I said, hey, I'm going to get you on our podcast because I want to carve out a good chunk of time because I want to get into your story because I think it's going to help a lot of these listeners in their journey personally and also in business growth, man. So thanks for being with us.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I'm excited to be here. And it goes without saying, the next time we're at the Huge, we got to link up, spend more time together.
Yeah, 100%. Are you coming? This episode will go out obviously before this year's. Are you planning to go this year?
We'll be out there in full force. Yeah.
Awesome.
How about you?
Yes.
You'll be out there, right?
We're going to be out there this year. We're going to stay a little longer. Last year, my wife and I had a baby, so he was 2 months old. So it's just, I was there real quick. But this year, we're going to bring the family and hang out for a little bit. It'll be fun.
Good for you. Good for you, man. I'm excited,
man. So let's get into it, John. I want to first hear your background as it pertains to home services. So what kind of business did you have? When was this? What did it look like? Kind of give us let's set the background because I want to take this conversation a bunch of different ways, man.
Get it. So I've been in the home service business my entire life. It's all I know. I've written my own paycheck probably since 13, 14 years old. There was like a glimpse of my time at 14 years old where I worked at Subway just because I was trying to figure out who I was in life. And then from 14 on and literally until today, I have written my own paycheck and it's always been in home service. And the beautiful thing is, just like you, just like many people that start from the bottom, it's a challenging journey, but once you make it to the other side, it's so rewarding. So my journey, it looks a little something like my first business was called John's Perfect Pressure. And 15 years old, door knocking, pulling the pressure cleaner around, just figuring out how to make a buck. And before you know it, I failed so many times on that journey. And then eventually I started a new business called Power Clean, rebranded, figured out what I was doing right, what I was doing wrong. I had to have been 16, 17 at the time. And I learned that I was doing everything in the business myself. And I was the guy answering the phone. I was the guy doing the production, admin, so on and so forth. And then before you know it, something clicked in my mind where I said, you know what? I started reading E-Myth. I started investing into my education. And I came out of that saying, I'm no longer going to be the guy on the truck. And I was young and everybody I hired was older than me. So I always told them, I said, you may not 100% respect me yet, but we're going to get this right. I'm going to be the CEO of this business and we're going to take this to the promised land. And we did, David. It took some time. And a lot of people didn't believe me. I didn't even believe in myself at certain points, And before you know it, we built this business up and we went from $500 weeks to 1,000 weeks, $2,000 weeks. Before you know it, we started having record-breaking months, $50,000, $100,000 months. Yeah. And we were running 24/7, 7 days a week. At night, cleaning gas stations and parking garages, the day, all residential. And it clicked, man. I was just like, I love this business and I love what I'm doing. But at a certain point, you got to know what you're put here on this planet for, right? And for me, it was like continuing to grow, continuing to elevate. Gentleman came up, bought my business. And yeah, it was so exciting. And I'll preach on this for a minute. I'll get right back to it. But if your listeners are ever in the mindset of how to treat competition, take it from me. Most people, they look at their competition and they're threatened by them. But that's a scarcity mindset. Live in that abundance mindset with everything you do. The guy who I used to give all of my overflow business to, who most people would call a quote unquote competitor, when I put that thing on the market, he said, hey, I see you're selling your business. He goes, why don't you just take it off and I take it from you? I'm like, you know what, man? That's the beautiful thing that happens when you lead with authenticity, you treat people right, and you treat the competition right.
Yeah.
Before you know it, he took the business, man, and then it kept going from there. Yeah.
It's amazing. How many years did you own that business for after you rebranded it? Like what was the timeline in scaling up?
So there was probably a time from, I want to say 4 to 6 years where I lived in that John's perfect pressure, failing and trying and figure things out. It took about year 6 where I went in and I said, you know what? The branding's wrong. It's all about me. Things are just, nothing was right. And before you know it, we made this huge muscle guy. He was running through town called Power Clean. Everywhere we went, people were like, oh, you're the muscle guy. I'm like, I'm definitely not. But, you know, we've got a strong brand, and it was killer, man. To see that shift happen, it happened because I believed in myself. I had a bigger vision. I casted that massive vision, and you plant those seeds throughout the years and they started sprouting. And like, it was really rewarding when, you know, you get a great asking price for the business and you can continue to move on through your journey of life.
Yeah, man. And it's all part of your story too, right? Like I see what you post on social. Like I think we do share a lot of similar values. Like you seem just like an awesome husband, family man, like present while juggling multiple businesses. And like you look back where you got your start, and like that's led you to the point today in your coaching role with your multiple businesses. Like it's just so cool that that's like kind of a log on your fire that's brewing today, that was like a chapter. So one question, and I do have though, what's your take on, do you think being a visionary entrepreneur, is that a skill set you think can be learned? Or do you think like John's a teenager and he's just dreaming of a bigger business? Like, do you think you were born with that, or do you think it kind of learned on like each zig and zag you took through entrepreneurship?
That's such a great question, man. So I've always had that vision. I think it's because I came from nothing that my biggest way to get out of the struggle was to dream big. I mean, really big, like so big that it wasn't possible for me. So I grew up with no money. My parents were divorced, and to say the least, they were both on very crooked paths. So I was by myself a lot. And I remember thinking to myself, how the hell do I get out of this struggle? Like, dude, I remember we lived in my grandmother's house for 5 years. And I remember thinking to myself, God, every other kid has like neighborhoods and childhood. And one day we made it to an apartment. And like, to me, that was like a huge deal. Most people would be like, I would never live in an apartment. But to me, it was like, wow. And I remember going through those steps. How do I get out of the apartment to a townhouse? How do I get to a townhouse to a real house, right? Well, you got to save money. You got to have a family. So I started thinking so big. And I said to myself, what really changed for me is I put that vision of what do I want to achieve in my life in 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, and a year. And I always was that guy. So I had the vision board and I'd have everything printed out. The Secret helped me when I was younger too, you know, just attaching the visualization process. And I was always dreaming and trying to see big.
Yeah.
So it's been with me. I probably came into this world, probably repressed a lot, negative, scared, like didn't really know how to bob and weave through the world. Mm-hmm. But then I think my heartache, I think my brokenness, if you will, started to flex a muscle in my mind. And I just poured into it. I lived in it. And I talked to myself in the mirror, and I flexed that muscle all the time, David. Wow. And eventually it's like that's who I became. So I think, truthfully, if you come from enough pain and you put enough purpose behind that pain, you can dream as big as you want, as massive as you want. As long as you understand that you're not your past, you need to like use it as fuel and create something massive and go get it. But yeah, you can definitely flex that muscle and get better at it.
I love it, man. And I think to your story, we'll get into it more, but it's pairing up the dreaming with also the doing, right? I know for me, like I was 22, 23, I wanted to move out of my parents' place, get my own place. And my dad was like, well, you got to save up 20%. You know, if you want to buy a place, that's a good goal. So I went online searching and found a condo I want is 200 grand. I'm like, okay, I need to like make 40 grand. And I went like working crazy that year to try save that up. And it's like, you're exactly right, man. It is a muscle that you strengthen little bit by little bit with goal setting. I'm curious, man, do you have like a background in athletics? Because like your line of talking tends to be really similar to people that played like high level sports. I'm just really curious.
Yeah, it's cool. So I you know what's crazy? I played baseball, I played basketball, I played soccer. The thing is that I became the captains of all these teams, right?
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
I just because of like, there could be much better players than me, but I was always really strong in mind. And to me, it was about you say you're going to do something, do it. If you're going to be the best shooter out there, you got to practice, right? Don't just say nobody can shoot better than me. You got to put the work in. So I always used to coach people up even when I was younger, right?
So funny.
Lift those knees higher. Let's get it.
Yeah.
So yeah, dude, I played sports a lot in my life, and I never really pulled that together, but that's cool that you identified that for sure.
Oh man, I think it's huge. Like I played high level soccer till I was 19, 20 years old, got concussions, and that's when I took that like intentionality I did in sports and plugged it into business. And it's like, it's such crossover. So I don't know, it just kind of came to mind. But let's get into the practical, man. We got a lot of listeners on owner operators getting off the tools. Like if you had to distill it, John, to like 2 or 3 gold nuggets as practical as possible to help you hit those 50K, 75, 100K months, grow this thing, what would you say? You mentioned the plug for the E-Myth. I love that. Believe that 100%. What would be another 2 or 3 things, or like, John, you know, to get off the tools to scale this thing up, I'd really focus on fill in the blank.
Yeah. So the very first thing I would say is you need to think about what type of life you want. Really, type of life you want. Most people I coach, they come into the world, to the fold, and they're just like, let's go. Where do I start? I'm like, well, we got to slow down. We got to talk about exactly what type of life you want to architect. Do you want to be an owner operator? Do you want multiple businesses? Do you want to be an exit operator where you're just getting passive income? Like, let's define what that looks like to you. Now let's talk about what that aligns like with your life goals, right? How many kids do you want? Where do you want to retire? Like, let's dream big. Let's craft that perfect vision. So like for me, I always start with your personal life, making sure that you're creating the right self-care routine for yourself. Because if you don't show up for yourself, David, which I'll get into more later, you got nothing, right? I did it for a long time. I grinded so damn hard, right? I'd drive home every day, my eyes would close, and I'd say, I'd look around and be like, I'm the only person I know who goes to this level.
Yeah.
You wear that as a badge of honor for so long when you come from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you make that shift that, you know what, it's time to start working a little smarter, putting people in place and doing what you were born to do, things start to open up. So for me, I always say you got to have your life goals in place, your self-care, take care of yourself, right? Make sure your own backyard is clean.
Yeah.
Once you have that dialed in, your family core values, your why statement, your mission, all that, then you can move over to figuring out how to get yourself off the truck. That's mission number 2. You've got to figure out how to get off the truck and learn from me. I spent too much time. I mean, I did everything. I was out there on rollerblades, 6 foot. You're a big guy like me, 6 foot. I was out there moving on rollerblades, knocking on doors. Just a certain point, hire the right person, be the CEO, grow the business. So collapse time, compress time, take it from me. Hire the right people sooner than later. You'll figure out how to make that extra revenue to support that. I promise you that.
Yeah.
The third thing I would say is you need to learn the power of accountability. If you don't have some way to motivate you and drive you, there's a really high chance you're going to be filling your mind up with excuses. I see it all the time. And now I don't play that game with myself. I really live my life by a no excuses mindset. And it took me a long time. But my brain's always, and everybody's brain is lying to them. Tells you why you can't do this. You're not good enough for this. You're not built for that. All a lie. It's all a lie. You were actually put here for all these incredible things, but you've got to crush through those limiting beliefs. So for me, I always tell people, put the right accountabilities and measures in place. Are you motivated by consequence? Right? Are you motivated by reward? Whatever those are, figure out what pushes you forward, and you're one step closer.
Yeah, I love Man, there's so many gold nuggets. I think the listeners can go and rewind that 2 minute segment there, man. That's phenomenal. One that stood out to me, man, was I want to go a little deeper on taking care of yourself. And I think we don't talk about this a lot in the trades, but there is a real mental stress, anxiety component to running a business, whether that's a home service business or a coffee shop or whatever. And also, man, like, we're having this chat in Q1 of 2024. Like, I just think life is getting busier, more expensive, and more stressful. Now, granted, when you do have a business, your income, if you do it right, is generally above average, but you deal with all these other stressors of hitting payroll, buying new trucks, etc. So do you have any practical tips, John, on balancing out the mental side while the business is still running, and share as much as you like with, because you've grown multiple businesses now, so I think you'd have a good amount to say on this.
The most important thing is do the things that you want to avoid right away. So the biggest thing I've learned is it's taken me some time, David, but like before my feet hit the ground, I'm always telling myself 5 things I'm grateful for. I shift that subconscious dream state that I'm in, and I start to get conscious and intentional. So my feet hit the ground, perfect example. I didn't think about it this morning. My feet hit the ground and it triggered my brain. I said, bang, my kid, my faith, my life, being on this today with you, it's an honor sharing this time with you. It is. It's like There's few things that mattered to me right away. I rattled them off, and then I went and I started working out. And once that mind-body connection's real, you've got to move your body. People come to me all the time. They're like, where do I start? I'm not feeling well. Like, people come up to me all the time in the business world, and they're like, they'll hear me speak and they'll say, dude, I just want to break the rut. I just don't know how to break the pattern. I'm like, let's take a step back. Be kind to yourself and ask yourself, when's the last time you moved your body, right? People, like, a couple months ago, a couple weeks ago, you need to move it every day, right? No matter what. So that's first. Then you do a little bit of weight training, get strong, start feeling proud of yourself, right? Work on that breath work. Start to open up your lungs, like, feel good. You deserve to feel good, especially like as an entrepreneur. I know a lot of your listeners in the world from a couple $100,000, give or take, all the way up. Mm-hmm. So you all know the pain of wearing all those bricks on your back, Take some of those off. Practice breath work. Figure out how to open yourself up a little bit, right? These little things are what I do every day. And as I'm working out, I start to think about how can I attack my day at the highest level? So I do these little things, right? And that's what works for me every single day. And if I miss a day, David, I'm always like, it's off. So I have to revisit it at night, but I never miss a day, dude, ever.
Wow. So how would you, let's play devil's advocate here, man. Easy for John to say he has a team of employees and he's got a nice life built. For me, this week, I did some self-care. I was proud of myself. I went in for an hour massage, right? And my massage was at 3:40 in the afternoon. And usually I take my son Beckham for a walk at 4. So I was like, have to move the day around. And then I was feeling guilty, man, saying, well, I'm surrendering an hour of work to go lay and get a massage. Does Dave really need that? Or could he go and blow out all his emails to set the next day up? Like, we all know these mental games. So what would you say to that inner voice saying, John, don't take that hour to yourself to work out? Like, you could have probably, man, coached another person or two and helped them. Like, what do you do with that voice in your head?
You have to look at yourself, and you have to for what worked for me was calling myself out. So I would give myself so many damn excuses throughout the years of why I needed to get back to work, why I needed to stay a little longer, why I needed to leave earlier before my son woke up to get to the office. I was always justifying it, always. Then one day something clicked in me. And what clicked for me, and I want your listeners to grab onto this, because I know for a fact there's so many people that are hurting right now. They might not be telling anybody because they're strong guys and they're trying to make shit happen, and I love that. But the bottom line is there's people hurting. And when I almost lost my life, so I went through a long period of grinding, right? The bend eventually broke. And it broke after my wife almost lost her life after pregnancy. I sat in this chair, I saw stars, I put my little boy down, and it's a really deep story, which I could share with you another time, dude, because I'd love to tell you.
Yeah.
And I'd love to share with your audience, but it's a whole different story on overcoming like that level of anguish.
Yeah.
Bro, my mind broke in that time. We've all heard of a heartbreak, but my mind broke in that time. And I blacked out. I woke up and I had doctors around me, and they were still trying to keep my wife alive, right? And I went through this process of healing. Thank God, by the grace of God, she's still alive. But they fought and they fought and they fought. And I had this little 3-day-old kid sitting underneath my legs in the emergency room. And after my mind almost snapped, or I almost lost my life in that time, I went through the next year and a half of trying to stay above water. I looked fine, I acted fine, but underneath the surface, I was completely broken.
Right.
And I went through all these processes of just trying to stay with the world. Dude, and I'll never forget it. There was a time where that last moment came where I said my final prayer and I was saying goodbye to the world. Mm-hmm. There was a time, it was raining out. And I tell this story all the time, dude, but I was sitting in my F-150 in the driveway, rain like you would never believe, thundering like you wouldn't believe. I was saying goodbye to my world, right? Mm-hmm. Left every note I needed to. And in that final moment, right before the most horrible thing could have ever happened to me happened, it was like I prayed to God, and like a light switch, everything stopped. The rain stopped, the lightning stopped. It was complete silence, and I just poured out, bro. I poured out. I couldn't stop crying. And in that moment, Dave, I heard the voice from God tell me that you missed the mission to life. You missed it, and I'm here to give it to you. And the mission that he told me was, you've always tried your best. You've always tried your best in everything you can. But the secret to this game is being dedicated, not motivated, but being dedicated. Dedicated to your faith, dedicated to yourself, and dedicated to the ones you love most. Yeah. Right? So I spent the rest of my life from that moment till now telling people that's real, right? God is real. And to create real purpose in your life and be dedicated to it. So like my value stack, my statement, my why, if you will, became clear in that night. And it's to show up for God, to show up for myself, and to show up for the ones I love most, to be a force for good in their life.
Wow.
After that night, dude, it's never been the same.
Yeah.
So I tell people, use your pain. Use your pain for purpose.
It's amazing, man. Thanks for the transparency and sharing that for our listeners. Very, very powerful, man. Just hearing you talk, I'm like, John, I feel like you could be like a minister, man. Like, I'm just like, I come from my dad's a minister. It's just funny that, you know, we have good chats, like seeing the crossover from business to ministry. And, you know, he started his own church back in the day and grew it. And it's just like, you know, hearing you speak is just interesting that, you know, you got successful businesses, but also just like the words you say, I'm just like, they're so powerful, man. It feels like you could be a minister, or you already kind of are undercover, maybe.
That's the best, bro. Thank you. That's like that compliment. It will never leave me, man. Thank you for that. People said preach, Don. When I was speaking somewhere the other day, somebody yelled out preach. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, let's just go. Yeah.
Awesome. No, man, super cool. I want to talk about, man, you've got some businesses you work with, you know, your guys, the girls that you coach to grow their businesses. What do you see from a future state where this industry is going? You know, people love to say AI, like, you know, I'm not turning a blind eye to this stuff, but I just think, man, at this point, it's still a little bit like overhyped and overrated. And I understand ChatGPT and all this stuff works great, but I'm just like, what do you actually see, man, looking at 2025, 2026, maybe 2030 even? Do you see any trends that spot out to you? If I'm an owner operator scaling up, I'm an ambitious entrepreneur, that you're like, man, in companies we work with, we're kind of seeing like this happen. You got any trends or stuff you could offer at this point?
I love it. So, and I agree with you. I think AI has its place, and I think it can do a tremendous amount of power and compress time for a lot of the things in the back end of the service business, right? The admin component, a lot of the marketing channels. I mean, it can, and it's already doing it. But in terms of like that being the future, I think you're right on the money. It's still a little bit out of our grasp, right? From how it's going to come into the technician field and all that. For me, I think my biggest intuition, or my intuition is telling me that experiential marketing is the future. So, especially in service. So I believe that we're heading down a world that's going to be more experiential driven. So right now, like, let's just say you're a gutter company, right? And you're a gutter company trying to grow your business. The old way of doing business is going to do the job, collecting cash or a check or a credit card, right? Doing the job, maybe sending a review request, and trying to grow your online presence. From my perspective, I think that we're heading down a world where we're going to start transforming into like the DoorDash model. And I think House Call Pro does a lot of that now. And I think a couple other CRMs I like a lot are heading in that direction as well. But I think that the whole experience side of things is going to be what Mrs. Jones is looking for. Meaning, if you're a gutter company, right, everything's gonna be automated, right, through the CRM. But then you're gonna get out there and you can give the actual process to Mrs. Jones, right? So here we are actually putting up the gutter. We're using this. You're taking the video as it's happening. It's showing what stage you're in through the process, when the job's going to be done. It's going to be all kind of buttoned up like through that process. And then that can be obviously paid to an NFT or wherever that game is headed. It's going to be stored in the cloud where it can go right to your HOA. I think we're going to be heading in a direction of that world. I just feel it. I see it happening outside of service and slowly starting to come into service.
Love it, John. Like, it's funny, you order a pizza at Domino's Pizza. I think they got their pizza tracker. They bill, right? You can see where the thing is. So I'm like, that's like a $15, $20 pizza. What about, a $5,000 I'm getting new gutters put up, right? So exactly to your point. I just wonder why the home service industry, the trade, seem to lag with it is changing, no doubt, but we still just feel like so far behind. Like, I think, a lot of owner operators too, just even getting on a CRM is like a huge win, but like, it's not 2016 anymore. It's like, it's not just being on that CRM, but it's seeing what it can all do. And also, where are these CRM software companies going that can give the tools to make growing a business even easier? That's interesting.
Yes. You got to leverage all that stuff. You have to. It'll make your life so much easier. Gone are the days where you're writing all your quotes on paper or receipts or sitting in the truck just trying to figure things out. Leverage the CRM. Start with something more simple and grow and optimize that the best you can. If you need to scale into something better, great. Don't overwhelm yourself. Get the right CRM.
Yeah.
Get the right people in place to run the CRM. And again, put the right people in place so you can grow and become the CEO of your business.
Yeah, man, I got one more question till we get into your book. Do you got any gold nuggets, John, on what you did to make your business attractive to sell it, right? I think it's something that, there's benefits, I think, to keeping your business from a cash flow perspective. I think there's benefits to selling your business as well if you want to go and build other companies or change up your life. Like that's part of it as well. So was there a couple of things as it pertains to like systems or people in place, or you had any secrets to share as far as like, this actually really helped me get this thing across the finish line? Like, not to mention too, man, just being an overall good dude with your competitors. I think that was like one thing you already did mention.
100%. And making sure that your business is something that you would want to buy from somebody. You don't want to just buy somebody who says, I got a nice trailer, I got good machines, you want to buy a business that's ready to be turnkey and scaled. How do you do that? By having the right ops manuals in place, by having your SOPs completely dialed in and updated, your handbooks on point. You've got everything on the back end that's very valuable. It's a lot of time to build that out the right way. That's got to be perfect because you're bringing that to the table. Otherwise, you're just bringing air to the table. Yeah. So you have to have that right. The second thing I would say is this: make sure that your digital assets are on fire, because that's what worked for me. This is my best golden nugget for selling your business, because this is how I sold my business. When I did, the gentleman who came to the table, he said, I've got flatbeds, I've got nice trucks, I've got good tax, I've got it all. But what I don't have 500 reviews on my Google My Business. I don't rank for every single keyword in every single city for every single service like you do. You've been doing this for a long time. You're dominating, right? Multiple sites. You name it, I had it. And he's like, I want that. That's truthfully what I'm interested in. I want all your digital assets. And I'll never forget that moment, because when people always ask me if they should do SEO and where they should start, I always tell them, like, make sure you have your leads flowing in. Don't even entertain. Anybody wants to sell you on SEO, they're BSing you if they say that's going to drive in all your business. Get your leads flowing in like crazy. Take some of that profit, invest it into SEO so you don't have to come out of pocket, and start to build your digital assets. Rank in your areas. When somebody comes to the table and they say, why should I choose you? You beat them to the punch, and you have all your money keywords ranking on page 1, shining bright on Google Business and everywhere else. Yeah. It's like, dude, that was the biggest takeaway for when I sold my business, right?
Yeah. No, man, it's amazing. And like, just to share transparently, like we said no to this, but we got an unsolicited email about 2 weeks ago, man, to my business, just saying, we did our research. We're a buying group. We like buying, trades businesses and scaling them up. We've done it a bunch. Would love to have a conversation and see if you guys are interested. I, replied, no, we're not not looking for that. But I'm convinced, man, that only came because they did research, checked out our brand. We've just rolled out a new website. We got a whole bunch of reviews. Like in 5 minutes of Googling, you kind of get this vibe for someone, the same way how when you meet someone, you're like, oh, this person like kind of seems like this. Like, it's the same way. It is your brand persona online. So exactly what you said, man, like button that stuff up, because like you never know who's going to be emailing or calling, especially as smaller businesses start to get rolled up. It's going to happen more.
Yep. And position yourself with a powerful brand. You just said it. When I went from John's Perfect Pressure to Power Clean, I became attractable. I became something that somebody wanted. Otherwise, I was attached to that business, and Mrs. Jones always wanted John to come. That was one of the reasons I had to kind of grow up out and build something bigger than myself, put people out there, and that fades away, because you never want to go to the table when somebody's buying your business and they say, well, what happens when they just want you, right? So outthink that, get ahead, reverse it. Put yourself in the place at that table in 12 months, 24 months, and reverse engineer and make sure that that's a business you'd want to buy.
Yeah, I love it, man. Well, man, let's get into your book kind of as a final segment here in our chat. John's book, everyone, is Ring the Bell. Love the title. I want to just give you the floor, man. I guess first, before telling us what's in the book as a teaser, can you tell me why you wrote this book, man? What's your heart behind it?
So I feel like I've been put on this earth to help and serve people. And I truly mean that. Like, I care about people so deeply. And the way I bob and weave through this world is, when I almost lost my life and I came out of the trenches, I promised that I'd always be God's hands and feet down here on the ground. And that's what I do. Everywhere I go, it doesn't matter what business I'm involved in or what I do. Like, I'm always thinking about, how can I show up for God? How can I make sure I'm doing His work? So I live in that world. And one of those things that lived on my heart is, how can I truly serve the home service world, the small business world, with everything I've got? And it's everything from mindset to overcoming your greatest things that's ever held you back, to casting a vision, and all these tactical techniques. Like, all this stuff is in the book. And it's basically been like the last 25 years of my journey of life is in that book. And yeah, I ended up writing it. Crazy enough, Dave, I wrote it because I'm a worker. I like to drive things forward. I'm not lazy by any means. So when my wife got sick, I had to stay home for a year. I think your listeners would really, really appreciate that side of automating your business. I built Mr. Pipeline up to this level where when my wife got sick out of the blue, I had this whole team charging the business forward. Dude, I remember thinking like, I can't even show up. I'm in the hospital again. Another appointment. And I check it on my Slack channel and be like, new deal, new product, sharing a win. This client's doing great. But I'm like, wow, dude. So my business was automated. So your listeners that are listening, I'm telling you guys, Dave's not doing this for any other reason other than to help and serve you guys. This is the secret to the game. And I was living proof. So at night, I would stay home. After I got my wife to bed, I took care of my kid. I had to play both roles. When I went to bed, I would just start writing. I had no intentions, Dave. I just started writing.
Yeah.
And before you know it, I'm like, I think I'm writing a story, a book, a chat. And all of a sudden I'm like, chapter 1, chapter 2. I'm like, dude, I'm writing a book. And it started coming to life, and it took years. And that's how it came about.
So it's kind of like your almost John's journal with like advice through the years, and you're just putting pen to paper, and then like probably midway through you're like, this could potentially be a book. I don't know. Let's keep this going. And then like, oh, I'm actually putting chapters in a table of contents.
Exactly. With a narrative and a story. And before you know it, it's like I tied it all together, and it really came together incredible, bro, because chapter 1 is called The Narrow Road, and it's all about people that are in the beginning stages of business, where your family doesn't believe in you, you don't believe in you, all you're doing is all you have is your ambition, and you're getting everything thrown at you through the narrow road, where most businesses don't make it out. Most business owners get chewed up and spit out. And whether it's their family coming in or they don't have the finances, most people don't make it through the narrow road. Mm-hmm. People like yourself that are showing up for people that have made it through the narrow road can help pull them through. And that's a blessing. Like, I didn't have that back in the day. Mm-hmm. And the narrow road chewed me up and spit me out so many times on so many ideas. And I'm glad they did. But at the end of the day, it's like, it takes this journey of ringing the bell. It just takes you through each chapter. Once you get through it, you get to the second chapter, which is called Gazing from the Bottom, where you get to see this beautiful mountain with this massive bell at the top. And you know, if you can make it up there, you can make so much damn noise that everybody will hear you. Yeah. And then everything just kind of flowed, man. And I'm just like, it's bigger than me. Yeah. It's bigger than, and then it went out, and I just had a great response, and it's a blessing, man.
No, man, I love it. It's I can't wait to read it, honestly, and like I know a bunch of our listeners are gonna pick it up and love it. What would be the best? Like, we'll link up where to get it, but is it, you know, I'm seeing it on the background there. Is it also, do you have it in Audible, Kindle? What are the versions of the book?
Exactly. So go to Amazon. If you're a hardcover guy or a paperback, go to Amazon. And then I did the audiobook recently over the last few months.
Nice.
That was painful. That was another painful thing. Yeah. I was sitting there in the booth just trying to pour my heart out, and it's a whole different skill set. And I'm glad I powered through it. Incredible response. But most importantly, it's just like, it's really wild to dream that big and be able to somehow achieve that. And now you're left with that, dude. Like, you've come to realize it's not, you don't, if you ever get the privilege of finishing and publishing, it's like, you're leaving that with your life, with your kids, with your future, it's your gift to the world. So make sure it's something you'll be super proud of. So yeah.
It's a legacy play, man. And also, like, you hear someone on a podcast for a half hour, you guys hear John, you like what he's saying, you know, for a few bucks, you can get your hands on over 2 decades of his brain. It's just amazing, man. Like, I'm looking at my bookshelf in front of me here, and you get snippets and people's almost blueprint of kind of their life and what they suggest. So it's just like, it's a no-brainer, man. I know that books have helped me so much in my journey and development. So yeah, I definitely think listeners should pick it up, man, and check it out. And I have heard, man, doing your own audio for your book, it's hard because you have to like stick to the script. You're not like this podcast, right? We're just letting her rip versus like when you're reading, you got to read word for word.
Yeah. There was times, Dave, I think I was crying. I might have been sweating and bleeding. There was a lot of things behind the scenes where I'd say, oh my God, I can't, I've done a lot of tough things as an entrepreneur. This somehow elevated itself to the top 5 or 10 things that you have to power through. So yeah, it's just another thing, but it's what I did is I listed over 67 ways to really grow your business. So I really help a lot of visionaries, but for the integrators who are listening, you can learn how to direct mail, text message market. You can do all this stuff just from kind of opening up one of those chapters and getting to work.
Amazing, man. One more question, man, before we wrap. I want to put you on the spot. I want to kind of take a little bit of a left turn.
Go.
Work-life balance, man. We hear about it, like, as dialed as you are on your own, making sure your tank is filled. You've mentioned that you've got to make sure that you're showing up as husband and dad and make sure the companies are running. So do you got any, because it sounds like it wasn't always that way when you're growing and going through the mud, right? So any advice as it pertains to the entrepreneur that also maybe has a spouse or a kid or 2 or 3 or 4 at home? Like, how do you juggle it all? Is that a weekly meeting with your wife? Is that like, what do you got any practical stuff around like getting stuff dialed in on the home front to make sure you can show up for your team as well and be that best entrepreneur that God's made you to be?
Yes. So the greatest thing that I've done is I've transformed my business accountability and I've put it at home. So I do silly things where I try to make my wife laugh because we all need, in the painful journey of entrepreneurship, we take a lot of pain home to them. So I try to be silly at home the best I can. I do a lot of like strategic things with my kid where I like step back and try to get him to critically think just rather than me answer for him. So I do a lot of that stuff. But I think the biggest thing that's helped me over the last few years is it's a simple tool, but it's worked for me. One day I was writing out I went to the local grocery store and I found a big poster board and I started writing down, what does my perfect day look like if I achieve all my goals, right? Wake up at 4 a.m., say 5 things you're grateful for, drink a large cup of water, whatever those things were. And I was doing them. And then I thought to myself, there's 2 other people in my house, my beautiful wife and my incredible little 6-year-old. What am I doing to help them? So I added them to the poster board and I said, Lauren, it's exercise, stretch, meditate, the things to help her feel good. For my son, those few things that mattered, right? Ride the bike, like focus on something that helps you feel good. So I started checking these things off. And then one day I thought to myself, let me do an Amazon search. And I looked on Amazon and I found a really cool white, like a large magnet, if you will. Stick it on my fridge now. And it's our accountability thing. And we all kind of hold each other to that. And we're always trying to make sure we're helping each other be the best versions of ourselves, because we're all we got. And yeah, we have our family core values and we're always trying to face our fears. But I think on the day-to-day, if us as entrepreneurs can take our minds and figure out how to transpire that to our family, and help them break through too, it's what it's all about.
It sounds like you're just present though, man, too, at home. Like, I'm just curious, like, shot out of a cannon, like how many hours a week would you say you're, and I know for entrepreneurs, a lot of us, you're not necessarily required in your company, but you're still getting those late night emails, Slack messages, whatever. Like, what would you say a hour per week you've got your schedule dialed where you can be home and be present?
Yeah. So my schedule now, it's like, I'm happy to say it, but I'm putting in under 20 hours a week.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, the thing is that I've come to realize I get my best work done early in the morning. So at 4 a.m., I don't just wake up to go get coffee. I wake up so I can go power through some of these things that are going to get in my way throughout the day. So like before you know it, 6 a.m., I've accomplished more than most people do all day because I'm so focused and I'm not like wasting any time. by 6 a.m. I've accomplished what most people are doing in 8 hours.
Yeah.
So it's like I've leveraged that, and then I do a little bit of stuff at night, and I'm building different businesses now. So I'm more in the trenches with some stuff, but I'm doing it only for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. No, man, it's cool that you can win the day, like kind of before the family starts to get up, right? And you're like, you already got that big W, so that's awesome.
Yes, you know it.
Cool, man. Well, this has been incredible. We mentioned your book. I want to just give you the mic, and honestly, man, like, profile what else you're doing. I want to hear some more about what's going on at Mr. Pipeline, and also any other ventures you got that you can share publicly about, just because we want to link it up, man, and give the listeners like as much value as possible here.
Cool. So I've got I'm involved in different home service businesses. Like, we've got a windows and doors business. We've got a landscape lighting business. We're about to roll out something really big in the Christmas light game. Yeah, so I'm always in that home service world because it's what I love. And I don't know, I have strength in it. You know, I'm not really good at opening a pizza shop and being a daycare. I'm sure that people can outperform me every day. So I live in that world with the great operators that I have, that I'm just coaching, adding strategic leadership to, and helping them grow. We power it all through Mr. Pipeline, so it really works for me. And then I've got different digital stuff I'm working on. So obviously I got Mr. Pipeline. We got a Facebook ads agency that's being rolled out. We're about to launch something really big in the virtual space, which I'm really excited to talk about. That'll come mid-April. So expect a big announcement. But yeah, there's like a lot of things I'm driving forward, man. At the same time.
Yeah. So you got your hands in a whole bunch of different companies, man.
It's my passion. Like, I truly love business. It's like a sport. And it's ironic you brought that up earlier, but like, it is. I love winning. I take my L's too all day long. But I love competing. I love lifting people. I just love the game of business. It's like, some people practice medicine, I practice business. So yeah, love it.
And I think, John, the key distinction is you've recognized like what Dan Sullivan calls your unique ability, right? Like, you're very visionary. You strike me as someone very good in the startup. Like, let's get the thing dialed, put everyone in place, let's put everyone on the field. But you're not necessarily facing the clients in the day-to-day or dealing with, you know, maybe the huge issues come to you, but the small stuff, you know, someone's unhappy about whatever, like, that's going to the operator. So a lot of your stuff, I think, is now visionary leadership. And a mentor once told me, man, he's like, CEOs only focus on 3 things of their business. I'm like, what are the 3, right? He goes, vision, people, money. So he's like, you know, if you're doing the other stuff, no, is it in vision? Is it people? Is it money? And sometimes I check myself with like, why are you getting all these emails, Dave? Like, is that vision, people, money? No? Okay, it needs to get handed off. Maybe not today, but we got to work on that process to get that off your plate.
That's gold right there, dude. That's a great way to simplify it. That's gold advice.
Yeah, I'll give the guy credit. Dan Martell is you know, Canadian boy, but he wrote a great book, Buy Back Your Time. So he said vision, people, money. I thought I'm gonna hold on to that. It's a great one.
Yeah, that's brilliant right there.
Yeah, beautiful, man. Well, leave us with the best way to get in touch with John if someone wants to learn more. You know, we'll obviously link up your book, but where are you hanging out online, man?
Cool. So find me on Facebook. I got my business profile, personal profile. Hit me up on there. I'm Instagram. I'm pretty much everywhere right now, but I'm pretty much living is anywhere from Facebook to Instagram. You can drop me an email at any time if you just want to chat. Or truthfully, Dave, for anybody who's struggling out there, if you're listening to this and this part of you made it to the end of this episode, send me an email. I want you to know that you're not alone, because in my worst moments, I remember thinking, I just need somebody. So I want to be that person for you. I promise you, I could care less about marketing, any of that stuff. If you're struggling, message me. I'll help you work through some of that painful shit. I got your back, man. And my email is jon@mrpipeline.com. So john@mrpipeline.com.
Easy, man. Easy. Not to give you another business idea, man, but I'm like, if someone packages up the dark side of entrepreneurship and dealing with the stress and anxiety and creates a really tight community around that, man, I think you'd be the guy. So I'm like, I'm into, maybe it's a maybe a 2025 initiative, but I'm like, man, is that needed for our space, you know?
Bro, that's so good, man. I appreciate that. You're not supposed to give me another business idea.
Don't tell your wife. Didn't come from me.
You got my word.
Yeah. Awesome, John. Well, thanks. We'll link everything up, man. Listeners, if you listen this far, hopefully you got some value from John. And John, just appreciate you giving us your most valuable resource, man. Your time and letting us kind of pry into your brain for the last 45 minutes, man. Absolutely love it.
It's been a pleasure, bro. It's an honor being here, Dave. Thanks for having me.